ran for the Indiana State House in a very heavily Democratic district, and about 95% Democratic district, as a libertarian, and my only platform was medical marijuana. I never rang a single doorbell. I made a couple ads, I wrote a couple articles, and attended a few meetings, and I got the highest percent of vote of any third-party candidate for state or federal office in the entire state of Indiana on medical marijuana.
That's incredible.
That gave me a lot of enthusiasm and encouragement that people want to hear this message. So I've continued with this, and we're going to go to the Indiana State Medical Association again and try to get this done. Now, whether you agree with medical marijuana or not, 80% of Americans do feel that people who have pain and suffering that might benefit from marijuana should have access to it and shouldn't be penalized or punished because of it. And so I'm just kind of expounding on that. And another thing that got me interested in this is I grew up on a farm, and I grew up with farm people in Iowa, and my roots in Indiana go back a long ways. My great-great-great-grandfather was the first settler in Owen County, Indiana in 1816, and our people have been in Indiana since 1812. So, you know, I didn't grow up here, but like I said, our family roots go back here a long way. So I have a fair amount of empathy for that. Plus, as a physician, you know, I feel like I'm, you know, at least as sympathetic and empathetic as the average guy. Well, I do this rural clinic then in Owen County, Indiana, where I have been an obstetrician gynecologist. I had a young woman come to see me who was 17 years old, pregnant, living with her mother, and she had a medical condition called myasthenia gravis. And I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but it's the disease that Aristotle Onassis had that killed him. It's a muscle wasting disease. And she was 17 years old, taking medication, and pregnant, had this disease. During the course of her pregnancy, she developed refractory nausea and vomiting. In other words, all the medicines that I was prescribing for her were totally unsatisfactory and weren't helping her. And she got very frustrated, didn't tell me this, but resorted to using marijuana to relieve her nausea and vomiting, which worked. And then she tried to mollify me by saying, yeah, the medicine that you're giving me is fine and I'm feeling better. Well, she was feeling better, but not because of anything I could do for her, but because she was smoking marijuana. Well, so, and I'll go into a little bit later in the interview kind of some of the medical benefits of marijuana, the upside and the downside.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting.
And so anyway, because of her condition, this myasthenia gravis, she went into labor prematurely, and she had a condition called preeclampsia, which is common in women with myasthenia gravis. And she delivered a baby about 4 weeks early that did well, stayed in our hospital in Bloomington for 5 days. And the state mandated that this baby be tested for drugs because of the prematurity. Well, the nursing services, social services, Indiana's Healthy Families, all worked with this young woman, said she was an ideal mom, she was a model parent. Day 5 of life, she took the baby home, was home for 4 days with this, and she was supervised at home, living with her own mother, was visited by these visiting nursing services, and said she was doing great. Day 9, the test comes back, positive for cannabinoids or marijuana. And Child Protective Services from Indiana went into her home and stole her baby from her and put it in foster care.
Oh, that's incredible.
Stole her baby from her.
At day 5?
Day 9 of life.
Day 9.
Put it in foster care. This baby languished in foster care for 5 weeks. It was neglected, it got a pneumonia, and my patient had to undergo court-mandated drug rehab and petition to get her own baby back.
Oh.
And they kept it for 5 weeks.
Before the mother?
Before she could get her own baby back.
Oh, that's incredible.
I submit this is wrong. The Indiana Constitution, and this is pretty important for any of you who are students or scholars of the Indiana Constitution. Article 1, Section 18 very specifically states that the penal code shall be based on principles of reformation and not vindictive justice. And I submit that is vindication. That is vindictive, and that is wrong. And that just got me going. I haven't looked back.
Well, that's horrible.
Terrible, horrible, really bad.
And I assume that's not the only case either.
Oh, there have been others, and many others, but this happened to me and one of my
Personally.
patients, and it got me charged up, and I have had a little bit of background, as I mentioned, with a kind of a libertarian sort of philosophy of leave me alone. I don't want somebody's help to make decisions in my life about what I do and how I do it that doesn't harm anybody else. And it stood me in pretty good stead so far.
Yeah, you were talking about your core beliefs. You felt like there was a resonance between your core beliefs and the beliefs of the Libertarian Party, and that's one of them.
Well, exactly. Basically, the Libertarian Party is a party of the constitutionalists. They feel that government serves best by basically leaving the individual alone, and that if government stuck to its constitutional limits, that it would be small enough that it wouldn't interfere with our daily lives, because it wouldn't be able to, and that it would cost a lot less. Even President Reagan said that government exists to protect us from each other. We cannot afford enough government to protect us from ourselves. Yet we've got this government that wants to protect us from ourselves with everything from seatbelt laws to a number of personal choice items that harm no one else. And among them, this insane war on drugs.
Yeah, what do you have to say about the war on drugs? That's a very interesting topic in itself.
Well, it's not constitutional. It took a constitutional amendment. It took an amendment to the United States Constitution to outlaw production and sale of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
But we have, through governmental fiat, allowed prohibition, selective prohibition of certain drugs. And it has created the biggest degradation of civil liberties ever to our Constitution. The government feels that they have the right. They could come into this room today on the mere suspicion of drugs being used here and arrest us, confiscate all of our property, and we would have to not only sue to get it back, but be deprived of resources to do that. And 8 out of 10 of those confiscations never result in a conviction. That's among the things that the war on drugs has done. As far as drugs in general, at the dawn of the 20th century, the drug addiction rate in America was 0.28%. And that was for opium, cocaine, and morphine. And at the dawn of the 21st century, with a vigorous prosecution of war on drugs for the last 80 years, just for those three things, the addiction rate is 4 times what it was 100 years ago. It doesn't include addiction to legal substances like heroin and benzodiazepines like Valium and Xanax and antidepressants and synthetic narcotics like hydrocodone and oxycodone that weren't even available 100 years ago. It doesn't even take into account those things. And because of the illegality of these substances, we've created this whole subculture of black market supported industry that is very lucrative and very violent and very counterproductive and destructive to society. So among the things that does, then, it prohibits people who suffer from having substances available to them for relief of pain and suffering, such as marijuana, which has been around for thousands of years and has been considered one of the safest drugs ever known to man that has any kind of therapeutic benefit. And there's never been a single recorded fatality related to marijuana use. Yet you can't use it.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? I mean,
It's flabbergasting.
you would think the toxicity issue would just be overwhelming. I mean, common sense. I mean, what's the big problem?
Well, every